Hello and welcome again to Immigration News and Views. My name is David Nachman. I'm one of the managing attorneys at the Nachman Pawani Zimochek Law Group. We have offices in northern New Jersey. We also have an office in Midtown Manhattan. And we have affiliated offices in Mumbai, India, and also in Canada. And I'm joined today by the manager of our Canadian law group, Veronique Malka, who is going to tell us a little bit about some of the issues that have recently come up for many of our clients who are doing cross-border type of work. Veronique?
Yes, thanks, David. So we do a lot of Canadian-U.S. work. This is one of our specialties. One of the things that we often see happen and we often hear from our clients is, what's going to happen when I get to the border? What's the officer going to ask me and what should I say? This is definitely something we're happy to help our clients with. And David and I experience similar things with our clients. My clients go into Canada, typically, and David's clients are coming into the U.S. So what people have to understand, first of all, when they get to the border, is that the officer is going to ask them on either side, and David can comment further, what your nationality is. They're going to ask you, what's your nationality and how long do you plan on staying? Now, why is the officer asking those questions? And then this happens either at a land port of entry or at an airport. Why is the officer asking these questions?
And Veronique, let me, before we go right into that, which it's really important, of course, to figure out what the officer is going to ask. On your side, on the Canadian side, when I say your side, I'm talking about the Canadian side.
I own Canada.
What is the administrative agency that has jurisdiction over the port of entry? And then I'll explain the counterpart on the U.S. side, just so any of our viewers who might be interested in taking a look at the regulations can go to the operating instructions or the manuals or the information that might exist on the web to be able to get some additional information after they hear us speak a little bit about it. So what administrative agency is that?
Right, so on the Canadian side, the governing agency is CIC, Citizenship Immigration Canada. However, at the border, you are not dealing with CIC officers. You're dealing with a subdivision of CIC, which is Border Control. We call them CBSA, Canada Customs Border Services Agency, and that's for Canada, okay? So on the U.S. side, something similar.
Right, so on the U.S. side, what we have is the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, which is the overriding umbrella agency, and then below that, the individuals who are sitting in the kiosks or who might be at the ports of entry are going to be individuals who work for what's called CBP, Customs and Border Protection. If you're interested in getting information about Customs and Border Protection, you would go to www.cbp.gov, and there you would be able to look up their operating instructions and information and policies about admitting individuals to the United States.
And CBSA is also on the web at cbsa.gc.ca. So going back to what we were saying, you know, please, and I'm actually happy, David, that you made that distinction. A lot of people prepare their applications even without the help of a lawyer. They might even be granted a work permit. They might be granted a visitor visa, temporary resident visa for Canada. And then they pack up their car, they drive over to the border, and they show their visa or they show their papers, and they think it's fine. You know, I was able to fill out the forms, everything was great. But guess what, folks? The people at CBSA are not CIC officers. They have a very different mandate, and they have a different kind of approach to those people who are in front of them. They don't have the time to look over your forms very often. They don't have really that interest in looking over your form. They're looking to see if you're coming into Canada and you're going to work legally, if you're going to be doing work, and how long you're going to stay, and if there's a chance you might overstay that nice little paper that you're bringing in. So it's nice that you have the paper, but are you going to respect the conditions on that visa? Other times they're going to be the ones asked to give you that visa or that work permit, in which case you can be pretty sure you're going to be pulled in over there in that house over there and speak to the officer over there, that dreaded secondary inspection. So our job here is often to prepare you to speak to the officer. But again, do remember that you're not dealing with a CIC officer, you're dealing with somebody who's carrying a gun, okay? I can't be more clear. What does that mean? That means that they're looking out for things that might not be okay. So their object is not to sit down and look through your paper. Their object is to get quick questions answered quickly and to get to the point, okay? So when you're coming in, make sure you have all your paperwork ready, make sure you're ready to answer the officer's questions and anticipate the officer's questions. What is the officer looking for? The officer's looking, as I said, to see if you're going to overstay your visa. You better have what you need to show the officer that you plan on going back by the end of your visa. Another thing the officer is looking for is, if you're applying for a work permit, what kind of work? Is this allowed work? Business visitors, typically, as well in the U.S. side, are very subject to scrutiny. Why? Because they're in that in-between zone. They're visitors, but they're also doing business. So, what does that mean? The officer is most likely going to spend quite a bit of time with you determining whether that is allowable work without a visa or whether you can go in just as a business visitor for a short time.
So obviously, and this is what I'm hearing, Veronique, from what you're saying, which I think is also relevant on the U.S. side. When an individual seeks to enter the United States, of course, they're presenting themselves to a CBP officer who also carries a gun because it's a quasi-enforcement type of agent. And like Veronique said, I think that's a great way to describe it. I often describe it as the gatekeeper. These are the individuals who are keeping the gates, and they're making sure that individuals who are not desirable are not entering the United States. And of course, on the Canadian side, they're doing the same. And so what they'll do is that if they have a question, an additional question, they will put an individual on the U.S. side into what's called secondary inspection. And actually, Veronique did a great job. She put together some very interesting articles which we're going to post on our website, so you can take a look at those articles. That really describes nicely the sort of back and forth issues that cross-border individuals who are going cross-border might have in secondary inspection or at the border in Canada. Now, one of the things I think that's really important that Veronique is pointing out is that you can have documents with you, but because the individuals see you for such a small period of time, it's a snapshot, you have to clearly articulate the reason why you're coming and what you're doing. And if it's not credible, then you can almost anticipate that you're going to be put into secondary inspection. Would you say that's right?
Absolutely. So I would say that viewers should now log on to our next video, which is about ethics and how the tough job we as lawyers have in coaching our clients on how to answer those questions, what the truth is, what the untruth is, whether to try to get around it. You can get into some pretty messy waters there.
So with that, what I'd like to do is thank our viewers very much for tuning in today to Immigration News and Views. Thank you very much, Veronique. The information you've given has been tremendously helpful. And please, if you have additional questions with regard to the ethical issues surrounding the showing up at the ports of entry, please tune into our next video. Thanks very much for tuning in today.
Merci.